Poverty can be motivational, poverty can be relational, poverty can be spiritual, poverty can be financial, any combinations thereof. So true. Poor people don't necessarily commit crime, and poor people was not a statement that I made. But I will contend that poverty does have an issue, does have a part to play, and I'd like to show you a bar graph which you'll be able to see just on the issue of theft over a 12-month period. The big tall bars, that's theft. And homicide is over here, negligible by comparison. Theft happens when people don't have things that they want and they steal it from other people. And I know that's a preaching to the choir, ABC's type of comment, but poverty is more complex. The issues that lead to crime are more complex. And I take this post as a buffer and as a voice of triage and also a person who's present in the issues. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in the people united. I believe in peace. Many of my initiatives are in the grassroots, kind of subterranean, if you would want to call it that way, to protect the continuity of what's being done and by who. But everything that I said comes to bear on the onus of people that I ask to do things. And I ask them to do them in the old-fashioned way, because it's simply what you're already supposed to do. You don't have to make an event out of everything. You don't have to make a meet and greet out of everything, or an occasion to eat out of everything. So these are my remarks for tonight, and I thank you for your time.
Any questions from council? Managers report.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. A couple quick dates as reminders to council. This Thursday at 3 o'clock, finally the ribbon cutting at Manatoni Green. And then Friday will be open to the public, beginning, I believe, Erica, at noon. Next Tuesday the 17th at 7 p.m. As a reminder, there's a joint Borough Pottstown School District meeting at the Connections on High at 238 East High Street. It's the old New York store building. On Monday, June the 30th, the hours here at Borough Hall will be changing. They'll be changing to Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m. with hours on Wednesday from 7:30 a.m. until 7 p.m. in the evening. I'd like to let everyone know on council we've been tossing around the consolidation of the Pottstown Fire Company. I want to let council know that sometime in the near future I'll be sending notice out to the 4 borough fire companies terminating the current fire service agreements along with the new fire service agreement to recognize the consolidated fire company. That will be before the end of this month. Those will be going out. And last but not least, 2 quick reminders. Next Saturday, a week, the 21st and 22nd, you have the Pottstown Rumble Memorial Park, and the Ambucks will be conducting their Soapbox Derby on Wilson Street. Last month, you'll recall I commented that we had a potential offer to have the race section of Wilson Street resurfaced as a donation by contractors. That will be occurring this Friday at no charge to the borough, done to the specifications of the borough so that we ensure that we have a good surface. And with that said, that's the end of my comments.
Any questions? Okay, Mr. Weed, Finance Administration.
We met last Wednesday, June 4th, and discussions included the port-off contract, which collects our fees, expires June 30th of this year. And we, the committee, feel that port-off has done a good job for us, so we recommend the council that the contract be extended. Human Relations Commission has finally provided us with a proposed budget, and this will be reviewed as part of our budgeting process. We talked about the flooding mitigation situation in the Laurel Street area down in the river, and it's noted that there are about 12 to 15 houses that are directly affected over a 3-block area. There's been suggestions of using duckbill valves to prevent river water from flowing back into the area. There's we looked at an estimate of cost of $50,000 for pumps for removing the water that might accumulate there. And we really have nothing concrete to move on yet. We suggest that staff continue investigating alternatives. Lastly, we did talk about the audit done by Naily. A quick overview, our borough finances are in good shape, and there should be a more detailed discussion this evening. Questions, Alex? No, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Library, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe I gave to each of the counselors a stapled packet of the library activities for the summer. The greenish one is for the teens, and the blue one is for the younger audiences at the library. That's going to be starting this week, and if you find an activity that's on both sheets, it means that all of the ages that are pertinent will apply. The teens are for those 13 and older. So if you find an activity on each of these, then it means that it's open to younger as well as older students. And there's some exciting things there. For me, it's a new item, Dre Beats. I bet if anyone ever heard of Dre Beats, I've never heard of Dre Beats, but apparently the kids know about it. That's going to be one of the prizes that's being offered for the reading contest for the teens. So if you look through it, they have the days labeled: Wednesday mornings, Mondo Mondays, Total Tuesdays, Whatever Wednesdays, Thunder Thursdays, and so on. So it's sounding like it's going to be a good week for library activity, and we encourage all teens and younger audiences to be out there. If you walk by the library today, you probably noticed that the banners are no longer there. We had some help with the borough and others to get them removed. It would cost us $3,000, $4,000 to replace it and put up something new. That's not something we're going to be doing right away in light of our financial situation, but they have been removed. You can now see the public library label on the building. And going inside, if you've taken the time to go inside, you now see there's no more plastic hanging inside. The mezzanine has been done. We now have more efficient shelving space for the nonfiction portion of our collection. We have eliminated some of the older volumes and made more space. There are 2 spaces now up on that mezzanine. That includes staffing space, which is vastly needed, as well as a space that will probably be turned into something like a tutoring area or a homework area for students to use at the library. These things are all the result of having had some work done on the roof and having some outside exterior things done. So we're looking newer, we're looking better inside and out. And the last thing I'd like to try to make mention of is we are still getting lots and lots of hits with regard to the Brain Fuse. I mentioned earlier in my reports that Brain Fuse is a homework assisting program free of charge where live persons with master's degrees in their subject area help students achieve their homework goals. We're getting hundreds of hits, hundreds of intercessions each month with regard to that. It's probably one of the most successful programs we had, and we like to tout it so that students are aware, parents are aware if they get frustrated with the new math. And again, folks, there is more new math coming out there. It's a place to direct your students to have some answers to their questions. We did finalize the wine tasting cost, and we made about $5,000 on the wine tasting that was at the Hill School this past month. That's going to help us a great deal in our overall fundraising abilities. I want to thank council and members of the public who have supported that. The last thing is my term on the board is going to be ending soon. I may or may not be back, depending upon what the board decides they want to do. I hope there will be at least some other person, if it's not myself, here at council, letting you know what the library is doing. But if I'm not here, I want to thank the council again for all of the help that you've done. You have been exemplary in financing the public libraries. And I would ask every member in the audience out there to contact your legislative representative to get the governor to not cut library allotments. Schools have been cut tremendously. libraries are not held in nearly the same esteem as schools are, so we're going to definitely take a big hit if that continues. So please let your legislators know that the libraries are as worthy as any other institution and need the help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Human Relations?
Just that tomorrow afternoon at Rupert School, I'll be there with members of the commission and honor the winners of the community essay contest. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Adita, Sheila, anything you want to highlight?
Just real quick, I want to let you know that our board met this morning and the first draft of the strategic plan is completed. They all have copies now of it. We have copies of the county plan for the downtown, and Meredith and I have shared some ideas with that. So hopefully that'll be forthcoming to you guys soon. And with that, also the bike show is this weekend. Although it's not a Padita event, it is going on downtown. So that'll be going on as well.
Okay, any questions? COG, Councilor Culp's not here. EAC, I don't see Mr. Durr. Regional Planning, we met last Wednesday. A couple things I want to highlight. One, the Pottstown Area Health and Wellness Foundation is starting a new initiative. It's called New Parks Promotion Opportunity on Your Park, Get Set, Go. What this is going to be that prizes are going to be awarded to the top prize or top parks during the month of July. First prize $10,000, second $7,500, and third prize is $5,000. And how this is done is you go to a park, you vote on it, you like it, you go online, if you have an iPhone, there will be the QR readers that you can get votes on that. And we're hoping that he will promote either Riverfront and the Memorial Park for us. This is encompassing all over though. This is not just in the Pottstown area. This would be New Hanover, Douglas, Chester County, also the North Coventry and East Coventry. So do what we can. We get a lot of people visiting our parks. Hopefully they'll vote on those. And the monies that are awarded can be used for anything park related. Hopefully we can be at least the winner of one of those prizes. The rec coordinator is down to 4 applicants, so there are going to be interviews early June, so they're going to be choosing that rec coordinator pretty soon. And that's the circuit righted, that's going to be for 4 years, that is going to be overseeing all the parks throughout the region for the regional committee. And they did pass unanimously your request for the radar enforcement, Senate Bill 1340 and House Bill 1272, that was passed. And the last thing, of a little bit of a historic nature, Supervisor Valentine from West Pottsgrove announced that the tropical tree has been sold, and evidently the Valrio, the diner, I guess from the Phoenix film, the thing is going to be moved up there. So hopefully we can have what do you call it? Cruisers going again from Dempsey, which is now VIP, back up to Tropical Tree, which will be whatever the name of that's going to be. So that's in the works. Any questions on that? Okay, blighted property, Mr. Ween.
Yes, in May there was not a quorum, so the meeting was held nothing formal. And in June, third Wednesday, being the 18th, next Wednesday, will be our first bus tour to examine proposed blighted properties.
What time?
3.
All are in blighted? Okay, any other questions for Mr. Wynn? Okay, at this time, we're going to have a presentation from our appointees.
Good evening, Council. My name is Bill Brslowski. I'm the principal with Maley LLP, responsible for the audit of the borough for 2013. Hopefully everyone has a packet. Their audit report fund. Try to be brief, but I'll answer any questions that you may have tonight. Beginning on page 4 is the audit opinion. Maley's, it's an unqualified opinion for 2013, clean opinion on the borough's financial statements. Beginning over on page 6 of the statements and continuing on to page 18 is the management discussion and analysis. That's an unaudited part of the statement. It's basically management telling the story of how the 2013 year went. And then beginning over on page 19, it starts the financial statements of the borough. Page 19 is the statement in that position, which shows, in addition to what you typically see on a month-to-month basis with the fund statements, it has the capital assets of the borough and the debt of the borough at December 31st. The next page is a statement of activities, which essentially is the P&L of the statement of net assets, shows the revenues and expenditures on the full accrual basis. As you turn over to page 21, that begins the fund statements, which you typically would see on a month-to-month basis for management. And that continues over on to page 30, which includes the sewer fund and pension trust funds. Page 31 is the notes of the financial statements. They basically detail out some of the assets, liabilities, and other commitments of the borough in more detail than are on the statements themselves. Flipping back to page 66 then is a comparison of the budget to actual statements for the general fund and certain special revenue funds that are considered major under the GASB rules. Then beginning on page 74 of the audit is in more detail of the funds that are considered other funds of the borough. They're just some of the more smaller funds the borough has in their financial statements. And it also includes, following that, a reconciliation of the monies due back and forth between the Pottsgroves and Pottstown for the wastewater system. As it's been in the past, the borough receives federal money that requires what's called a single audit. We've conducted a single audit for 2013, and in that single audit, there were 2 findings that were there in the past for controls over the financial statements, and I'll get to those in a minute. But as far as the federal programs that were audited, which total federal programs were just shy of $1.4 million, there's certain calculations we go through to determine what programs are tested and not tested on a given year. We tested approximately 57% of those federal programs, and the compliance by the borough with those programs was no findings as far as compliance issues over the federal programs, the largest being the park transportation system. Beginning on page 85 and 86, that lists the 2 findings. One is just regarding certain adjustments by management over the financial statements. That's an issue that was there last year, and management's currently working on improving that finding. The other finding was over the building permit escrows, just the reconciliation, better reconciliation over those escrows, and management has already put something in place to correct that problem. That's the audited financial statements. I don't know if anybody has any questions on those.
Problem of what with the escrows?
It's a reconciliation problem between what's in the general ledger system of the borough and who the money's owed to. It's been going on for some time now that there was a reconciliation that needed to be done to determine where all those monies were due, which builders or residents, whoever those escrows are to. So they've been working on correcting that problem in 2014. There was 2 separate letters you should have received. Hopefully they're also in your packets. The first one has a heading, Our Responsibilities, on it. That's known as the SAS 114 letter. It used to be called the Audit Committee letter. Basically, in the beginning of it, it states some of our responsibilities for the audit, and then it goes into any issues we may have had with the audit with the borough. Starting out on page 2, you'll see that there's a heading there for significant accounting policies. The borough had no new significant accounting policies adopted in 2013. Everything remained the same as it was in 2012. Then goes on to list the significant estimates that are embedded in the financial statements of the borough, such as depreciation of the capital assets and allowance for collectible receivables. And then there's 2 others, the MMO for the pensions and the actuarial calculation of the other post-employment benefits that are health benefits that are due to retirees post-employment. On page 3, we discussed that we had encountered no difficulties during the audit in dealing with management. Management was very cooperative and very helpful with the audit. And it also describes certain adjustments we made or didn't make because they just weren't material enough to the statements themselves. And the copies of those adjustments are in the back of the packet. Management's been provided with those adjustments. The second letter is the SAS 115 letter, or what used to be known as the management letter, just recommendations that we have, the first 2 being the same findings that were in the financial statement, the audit adjustments, and the building permit escrows. And there's a couple other recommendations that are not as strong as the other 2, but they're recommendations we are making to management. One, starting next year, the pension liability that's calculated by your actuary, that's been done for years, is going to be required to be put on the statement of net assets next year, similar to the OPEB liability that was put on a few years ago. Given the fact that that's going on, the statement of net assets, there's also additional disclosure requirements that are going to be required in the borough financial statements. Our recommendation is to council that you consider having the actuarial evaluation done annually to calculate those numbers and come up with those disclosures, because it is a significant change from what's been done for years past. On a positive note, one comment that we had the last few years on the OPEB liability, we had made known to council that that OPEB liability was growing at a rate of $2 million to $2.5 million per year, and we had recommended that council consider setting money aside to help with that future liability. And I'm happy to report, as probably most on council know, that some money has started to be put away for that liability. There was a little in excess of $250,000 for 2013. I'd just like to reiterate that you don't lose sight of that liability because it's continuing to grow. Any questions?
On the pension liability and the changing, the changing venue about reporting and disclosures, this actuarial evaluation is already done annually. Or would it require a change in the timing?
You're referring to the
actual
evaluation that's done by
right.
the pension fund itself.
Correct.
It's typically biannual.
Yeah, it's not annual.
It's not annual.
It's not annual right now.
So it's done it's usually every odd year. So and it's done January 1st of every year.
So this is something that probably has to come to the attention of the pension board this year, in case this was not the year.
I think the requirements on the pension board have changed. I think that's a requirement of the municipality.
Not on the pension board, right? Yeah, okay. That's good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any comments, Councilor Wynn? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, on to our new business. Motion to authorize a letter of support to the Cobradale Rail Preservation Trust for its grant application to the Department of Conservation and Natural Resource Multimodal Transportation Fund for the Pottstown Station, and to provide associated permitting and regulating requirements to the borough.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to authorize staff to proceed with the implementation of a base fare increase of 20 cents for part service to become effective July 1, 2014.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adopt the 2014 Title VI policy for the Pottstown Area Rapid Transit System to be in compliance with Federal Transit Administration.
Moved.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to authorize the solicitor to prepare a 60-day lease extension for the agreement between the Olivet Boys and Girls Club and the Borough of Pottstown.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any comments?
I just have two quick questions. When the new agreement is reached, does it come back before council again for approval?
Yes,
And the new agreement is for how long a term?
it will be for 5-year increments with the options to extend from 25 years.
That's not year to year?
5 years, it'll be 5-year terms.
Oh, 5-year term.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve a 1-year extension of the contract between Portnoy Law Associates and the Borough of Pottstown from July 1, 2014 to June 30th, 2015 for collection of delinquent records. Or accounts, I'm sorry.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to ratify the mayor's disciplinary action of a 1-day suspension upon a Pottstown police officer.
Moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the final modifications for the Plum Street Land Development Project 56 to 68 South Charlotte Street to include revised parking, lighting installation, and placement of a tree as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adopt an ordinance amending the master traffic ordinance, amending certain fines and penalties for various parking violations.
Moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to authorize the solicitor to prepare and advertise an amendment to the master traffic ordinance to establish a portion of West Walnut Street as a one-way street.
Moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded, and I understand the balance of the residents have.
The balance of the residents have been contacted. In fact, the police department expanded into some of the surrounding neighborhood also. In the end, 28 residents were contacted, 24 were in favor, 3 were opposed, and 1 was undecided. The police department is recommending that West Walnut Street be made one-way west from Burks to Myrtle. Designated car line, which is for the school district to address. That parking be permitted on the north side of the street, but have restriction during school hours. And parking will remain on the south side of the street, as is currently permitted.
Okay, any discussion with that? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to authorize the solicitor to prepare and advertise an amendment to master traffic ordinance to establish vehicle weight limits on certain streets and bridges.
Moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to grant requested carousel at Pottstown to conduct its annual carousel flavor event, along with a beer wine garden on September 14, 2014, resulting in the closure of High Street between York and Hanover Streets from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and subject to approval of the police and fire departments and the liquor control board.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Reported bills, Mr. Weir.
Yes, sir. Motion to pay our expenses in the amount of $3,449,043.56.
You want a second? Is there any discussion or questions on any of these checks? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Announcements, we'll start over here with this, Mr. Counselor Kirkland. Counselor Gary.
Thank you. I was going to start by saying I know I'm preaching to the choir, but unfortunately, most of the choir left before the service was over. But I would like to sincerely thank all who came in this evening and had public comment. I know it's not easy for most people to stand up and speak publicly, and certainly not to address a governmental body. Ms. Crum, Ms. Suver, is that close to right? All right. Mr. Beasley, thank you for staying. You know, there were a lot of things mentioned tonight that I think I just kind of have to comment on. You know, Ms. Crum, you mentioned that the police department needs to be held to standards. Mr. Beasley, you mentioned about how you're tired of being told to do more, and no one who leads the borough is ever held accountable. Look, I share your frustration. I live in the borough. Mr. Heidel talked about some of the problems in the 6th Ward with you know, the trash and things like that. I have to pick up the trash in front of my house. You know, I'm raising 4 kids and chose to live in the borough. I understand the frustration. What I hope you understand, and now, Mr. Beasley, I'm talking specifically to you. When we say people need to do more, you have to understand, I'm talking to the community at large. And if you take your civic responsibilities seriously, which you say you do, and I have no reason to doubt you, and if you get involved, and if you report crime when you see it, and you fail to, or you refuse to tolerate it, then I applaud you. And certainly, my comments about the citizenry needing to do more are not directed at you. So please don't take it that way. In fact, I wish we had more citizens like you who took their duties and responsibilities seriously, came into the meetings, expressed their concerns. I think that would go a long way to making Pottstown a better place for all of us to live. You know, Ms. Crum, you know, all I can say is our police department is held to the highest standards. I would simply throw out, you know, hearing people blame the police department for crime is like blaming your doctor for disease. Crime, you know, the police department, if we had a police officer on every street corner, there would still be crime. I mean, that's just a fact. The other side of that is we just cannot afford to have a police officer on every street corner. And, you know, we talk about, and, you know, the captain knows what I'm talking about, the borough manager knows what I'm talking about. We talk about proactive policing. And proactive policing does not alleviate crime. It deters it, and we try to do that. You heard the mayor talk about how we have police on patrol in the various zones. They cannot be everywhere all the time. They go where they think they will best be able to do their job. What our police department does is try to be present as many places as they can within the budgetary constraints that we are under. I mean, nobody argues that our citizens are undertaxed, and nobody wants to pay more taxes, even if it's for additional police protection. That's just a fact that we have to deal with. But our police department, you know, we are fortunate that we don't live in an area where our police department is under scrutiny for violating civil rights, for, you know, unjustified police shootings, for things that you hear of in major cities. We have a very good, very dedicated police department. They, you know, most of the crime that's committed and then investigated, you're not going to hear about the details of the investigation until the perpetrator is apprehended, because they're looking for the people. It's just unrealistic to expect to know what's going on in every investigation. So the fact that we have crime in the borough is not an indication that anyone involved, anyone that sits up here, the mayor, the borough manager, the chief of police, the captain, that anyone fails to hold our police department to standards. You heard one of the actions we took tonight was disciplining an officer. That is something that I guarantee you every member of council takes very seriously. We have, in my opinion, two major charges. The first is to protect the public, and the second is to be fiscally responsible. And I think that is, we may differ on how we accomplish those two goals, but we all take those very seriously. Ms. Suber, all I can say to you is, you know, if you ever feel like you are not getting the attention you deserve, grab one of my cards, call me, I'll do what I mean, I'm not going to tell you I can solve every one of your problems. I mean, we're not going to be able to do that. But call me, email me, if you have any issues, tgary@pottstown.org. I mean, it's that simple. Don't expect an immediate call. I work for a living. I'm trying to raise a family, but I'll get back to you when I can. You know, so bear with us. You know, and Madam Mayor, maybe I jumped on you too harshly last week.
Can't be done this morning.
But I'm not suggesting that poverty does not play a role, but I just think we fall too much on that as a crutch. And I really, you know, look, I grew up poor. I didn't grow up to be a criminal. I mean, poor people do not commit crimes.
I said poverty.
Which
is the system.
I understand that. We, you know, there are so many. It's just, you can't blame individuals that up here for issues like that. Good citizenship and law-abiding character is formed in the home. I learned to call my elders sir and ma'am, because that's what my dad taught me to do. I did not steal, even though I may have seen other people with things that I wanted. I didn't take it from them, because my mom and dad taught me that was wrong. It's not because I was afraid of the police. I was afraid of my mom and dad. So let's start thinking about, you know, where we can address this issue. You know, I would venture to guess that most of the thefts that you refer to, Madam Mayor, that happen in the borough, they're not a result of someone having and another not. They're related to drugs. And I would encourage everybody to remember that when we discuss, not we here, but in general, the notion of legalizing marijuana use. Marijuana, which is by definition, and this is coming from the FDA, a drug that has high potential for abuse, no currently accepted medical use, and a lack of safety for use under medical supervision. So, you know, when we start addressing issues like that, let's think about what the broader impact is going to be on our community. I think, at least in the community of those who study the issue, it's pretty much universally accepted that marijuana is a gateway drug. Now, that doesn't mean that every person that tries marijuana is going to move on to harsher, stronger, more addictive drugs. It does mean that a whole lot of people that start with marijuana are going to end up with crack, meth, or heroin. And I can tell you this from my experience as a prosecutor, and I'm pretty sure that the captain will nod his head, that the manager will nod his head. Most crack addicts, most meth heads, most tweakers will leave half-filled urine bottles on the street, will leave crack vials on the street, will break into cars, and will steal from people. So, you know, I would just encourage you, instead of coming down on the police for failing to stop every crime that's out there and for failing to be everywhere all the time, let's start looking at some of the issues that really give rise to the crime problem. You know, I was saying to some of the folks up here, half jokingly, you know, how about before your son leaves the house, tell him to pull his pants up. You know, before your daughter leaves the house, tell her to dress appropriately. Let's start the attitude in these kids when they're young so they grow up to be law-abiding citizens, not criminals, and we don't have to worry about why our citizens are shooting one another. I'm really not getting into this part to defend Mr. Tironi, but I'm going to defend Mr. Tironi. I don't, for the life of me, understand how anyone can single him out as a cause or a factor in the escalating violence. As I said, everyone that sits up here takes it very seriously. I mean, for goodness sakes, we all live in the borough. It's just, it's ridiculous to think otherwise. I have not been on council that long, but I can tell you that in the time that I have had the honor and the privilege to serve as a member of council, my interaction with Mr. Tironi has never been anything but fantastic. He's always a gentleman. We don't always agree on issues, but he has always treated me with respect. I've always seen him treat other council members with respect. You know, he is the president of council because we elected him as such, but he still only has one vote. And you know, we all have a responsibility to carry out our duties. We all voted for the borough manager. We all had a say in who the next chief of police was going to be. So, you know, if you want to come down on the council as a whole, certainly you may do that because we speak with one voice. But I just think it's, I hate to say unfair because everybody knows all's fair in love and politics, but it certainly is unjustified to single him out for attention on these issues. I don't understand why anyone would think that would be the appropriate thing to do. And I'll just end by saying, you know, when we reorganized in the beginning of this year, it was my honor to nominate him to serve as president. And after what I've seen in the last few months, I wouldn't hesitate to renominate him. Thank you.
Thank you for those kind words, Councilor Perry. Councilor William?
I had no comment earlier, but I do now. I want to pick up on part of your opening, Mr. You mentioned those who have come forward this evening. Some stayed for the full duration, some did not. And I'm going to take ownership in one of those constituents out there that's from my ward is Mr. Beasley. And he does come out here whenever he can. When he cannot, he must have my phone number memorized. He's not bashful. He tells me when things occur that he does not like. He tells me things that he observes. He tells me, he even calls when he likes things. And I wish every ward would have 100 more like him. Thank you, sir.
Can I respond?
No, sorry, you can talk to Mr. Ween after the meeting, I'm sorry, that's.
Do I have to make
I'm
notes,
right.
carry this on to next one? Okay.
Councilor Pottstown.
Besides just echoing Mr. Gary's comments, thank you, even this sometimes at the expense of council, including my own, because the majority of the, the problems discussed happen in Ward 1. There is a neighborhood watch. Right now it consists of myself and my dog. If there's anybody else that would like to contribute or help, or even just let me know, or a police officer, where suspicious properties are. So I could keep a closer eye on before bad things happen.
Okay, I have a couple. I want to echo Councilor Proxel. There's a neighborhood watch in my ward as well, and it consists of myself. If anybody would like to join me, I would be more than happy and willing for you to step forward and we can come together.